Here's a quick look at Dungeon Drop's components. The goal of the game is to become the highest level adventurer after 3 rounds of exploring the dungeon. Today we're going to demo the game with 3 players, and the first phase of the game is the adventure selection phase, where each player is going to simultaneously take their adventurer die and pick a value. They could pick a 6, that would make them the barbarian, having the most life points in the dungeon, but they would go last in terms of turn order. Or on the other side of the coin, they could pick a 1, that would be a mage. They get first turn order, but have the fewest life points in the dungeon. So right now, each player is going to secretly select their role to explore in round 1. We've cleared our tabletop and we're ready for phase 2, the dungeon drop, where we actually set up the dungeon for round 1. We're going to take all of the dungeon cubes and literally drop them onto the tabletop. I've repositioned the camera a little bit to give you a better view of how the cubes fell. Every setup of the dungeon in Dungeon Drop is entirely random. And the first thing we need to do to just clean up the dungeon and finalize the drop is to determine the dungeon boundary. We find the dungeon boundary by looking at the black pillar cubes on sort of the outer edge of the drop. And we need to gather up any cubes that fell outside of that dungeon boundary and redrop them into that space. Once all of the cubes lie on or within the dungeon boundary, then we're ready to begin. In the explore phase, the adventurers will be exploring and discovering rooms in the dungeon by connecting 3 pillar cubes to form triangular rooms. And anytime a room is formed, players are going to be collecting any cubes that lie within that space. One limitation when forming a room in the dungeon is that no room can contain another black pillar cube within that space. So for example, if this black pillar cube here were inside this triangle, then this could not be a room. So let's dive into the dungeon and see how this works. Our first player, the mage, is going to go first, and they are now scanning this dungeon and looking for the best possible room for them to explore. Let's just say that they wanted to explore this room right here. The second limitation that they're going to encounter is that no player can form a room that would make them collect a number of green monster cubes that would lower their life total below its current value. In this case, the mage character has only 1 life point, therefore they could not form this room containing 2 monster cubes. So instead, our mage is going to come on over here and use these wall pieces to mark out a room that they are going to try to discover. And the one that they see here is between these 3 black pillars. And they're going to use these wall pieces just to mark to the other players this space that they see. So let's take a quick look at what they found. They found 4 yellow gold cubes. Those are each going to be worth 1 experience point at the end of the round. They found 1 blue lost tome. This is a set collection element, and the player that collects the most blue cubes at the end of the round will receive 10 experience points. They also collected 1 chest and 2 keys. A paired chest and key, such as this, will be worth 5 experience points at the end of the round. An unpaired key or chest is worth nothing. Our rogue goes next, and they are going to take their wall pieces and come on up here and discover this room between these 3 pillar cubes. And they're going to collect all of the cubes within that space. So let's take a quick look at what the rogue player collected. They got 2 gold cubes worth 1 experience point each. They also got one blue lost tome, and now they are tied in that set collection race with our first player. They got one monster cube, and remember, this mage player could not form a room containing even a single green monster cube. The rogue player with 3 life points can collect up to 2 of these green cubes. And they really made this room because they wanted to collect this clear red Dragonlance cube. And there is one dragon in the dungeon right here, the red cube. No player may form a room containing the dragon cube unless they have first collected the Dragonlance. In which case, not only can they form a room that contains the dragon, they can collect the dragon, which is worth 7 experience points at the end of the round. Now our knight player goes, and they're going to choose to really plow into the middle of this space and form a room here right in the middle of the dungeon between these 3 points, and they're going to collect all of the cubes in that space. And they're going to collect any cube that even grazes the edge of one of these walls. A wall is considered to be the thickness of these cubes. All right, and this one might be considered to be in there as well. It also grazes the side. Now notice they've collected 2 green monster cubes, but that's totally fine for the knight because they have 5 life points, so they could afford it. And let's take a quick look at what they've collected. They've gotten themselves 2 gold coins worth 1 experience point each. They have collected 2 green monster cubes, which means their life total is now effectively down to 3. And they will score 1 experience point for every 2 monster cubes they've collected. But they've also scored 2 blue lost tomes, which means they are now in the lead for that set collection race, and if that holds up at the end of the round, they will score 10 experience points. So now the explore phase is just going to continue round and round the table in turn order. Each player is going to pick up a set of wall pieces and use them to form a new room in the dungeon until all players have passed. It should look something like this. So in the level up phase, we're going to award 3 purple level up stars at the end of round 1 to the players that scored the most experience points by exploring the dungeon most successfully. And at the end of round 3, the player that was able to score the most level up stars and become the highest level adventurer exploring the dungeon is our winner. I hope you enjoyed getting a quick look at the game, and thanks for watching.